All right. As you join, if you want to change your name so that it has your name and your chapter, because as we open up the instructions, and we start having conversations and asking questions, and you all are going to be providing your insights, everyone on the call is going to be sending you a chat saying, yes, that's great advice, but what chapter are you in? Or how can I find you? So putting that out there is super helpful.
How, I'm sorry. How do you do that?
Haley just put it in the chat so that if you open the chat, it'll tell you. If you're on an iPhone, are you on an iPhone or an
Oh,
iPad?
no, I'm on the iPad.
The iPad doesn't have the same functionality, Lucille, so you might not be able to
Okay.
rename yourself.
Okay.
Try her instructions, but if they don't work, it's the iPad's fault, not yours.
Okay.
And we'll just tell everyone that you are a founding leader of a brand new
Oh,
chapter that's getting ready to launch in Southern Connecticut.
well,
So, yay,
I'm
yay.
hoping. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Mm.
much.
Really, really great to see you all and welcome you in. If you are able to change your name, it's super helpful for you to have your name and then the chapter you're connected with. Um, I don't know how the chat function works. You might have to share the instructions again because I don't know if they joined after you sent it, if anyone can see it. I don't know how that works. When in doubt, just help them again. But oh my goodness, I'm so excited to see you all here. We have a really good turnout. Now, I think we had, oh my word, like almost 30 of us register for this today, and on relatively short notice in what I know is a crowded calendar. I am very grateful to have you. I will open up as people are joining, and I'm sure we'll have more people popping in. But I'll start out simply to say welcome and thank you for joining November's Chapter Chat. This is an open forum where all participants, regardless of how long you've been involved in Impact 100, can ask questions. You can also provide insight or answers. This is where we help each other. It's been an exciting few weeks. Really happy to see Carla Cummings, who we owe a huge debt of gratitude to. We had, for those of you who did tune in to our Global Day of Impact on November 7th, you know that Milwaukee knocked it out of the park. We had so much fun. We were in this cool location. We had tons of people and it was amazing. So thank you, Carla, as your chapter is getting ready to celebrate 10 years, which is
Yay.
hard to imagine.
Thank you.
Yay.
Our team had a great time. Everyone is still buzzing about all the fun we had and the great information that was shared by your team with our team. So it was awesome. Thank you for coming.
Oh my gosh, it was great. I don't know. We're going to want to go back there again and again. We had so much fun. Um, the news, though, if you weren't online, is that by the end of 2024, Impact 100 chapters from around the globe will have contributed nearly $160 million in grants, which is hard to fathom. We have 76 chapters on 4 countries, and as Lucille can attest, we are still really growing. Now, when we talk about the Global Day of Impact, some of you may understand what that is, and for some of you, this might be new information. Back in 2020, we realized that for the first time, we would break through 100 million in grants awarded in 2021. So we started the Global Day of Impact which is the one day a year that we announce to the world how much money we have collectively awarded in grants, how many chapters are out there doing the important work that you all do. And we used to also give you a list of chapters that had inquired in the past year to launch. And some of you noticed that it tended to be 50 or 55 or 45 or 60. It was always sort of in this realm, but we don't always grow by that many chapters. So that number became less important. This year, we finally just said, we're not going to necessarily talk about our chapters that are in development or our upcoming chapters, because what we know to be true is that you all do a great job of making Impact 100 leadership look easy. And so somebody hears about it, or they're friends with you on Facebook and they live in another town and they contact Global and they're like, we want to do this. And then they have that first initial Zoom conversation to really find out what it takes to launch a chapter. And there are quite a few who are like, oh, yeah, probably not right now, but maybe later. Or I might not be the right person to lead, but when a leader shows up, let me know because I'll join. So for all those reasons, we just think it's cleaner. We are still getting the same amount of amazing outreach, but we simply don't have as many that can possibly launch in this time frame. Speaking of launching, though, we do have a new world record. Now, I am very happy to see Traverse City represented. Elise, you probably know that Traverse City has held the world record since 2017 of first year launch at 255 members. Many launching chapters have wanted to break that record, but no one has until now. We just had a brand new chapter raise not 255, but wait for it, 307 members, which is $307,000, which means when we look ahead at where we're going, if that chapter is any indication, I think we are going to continue to see the spectacular growth that we have had thanks to the hard work of each and every one of you. Just to be clear, I will always celebrate those victories, but it's not about how many members you get or how many grants you're able to award. It is really that you are doing everything you can to empower as many women, engage them, get them involved in the work that you're doing so that you can do the most good right where you are. And I do know that there is an impact of Impact 100 that lasts well beyond the grant dollars. So, so your crown was very shiny and lovely, but I'm afraid it has now been passed to a new chapter. Also want to shout out, I've got some members of our 2025 Global Conference Committee on this call. You hopefully have all seen that early bird pricing, our registration has officially opened. So if you've ever been to a global conference in the past, you know that this is the most valuable few days that you can invest. You will meet amazing women. You will learn from leaders from literally around the globe. And your leadership, your chapter, your members, it is open to all of you. You will leave a better Impact 100 member or leader, but you will leave with a lot of lifelong friends that you actually get to see face to face. So it is open. You'll find it on our website. It's October of 2025 in beautiful Miramar Beach. which is Sandestin. So Panhandle of Florida, right on the beach. We will learn a lot. We will have a lot of fun, and we can't wait to see you there. Now, most of you have submitted questions, and I am very, very grateful for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and cover, we got lots of different subject matter here. So I'm going to cover a couple of things that we don't always get asked about. So I'm going to start with under what we're calling miscellaneous. Does anyone sell merchandise? So by this question, I think we're talking about swag. My broad answer is that many, many chapters do sell swag. They offer it for sale to their members. It's, however, often the way it would work is that the chapter might design, let's say, and negotiate a price for a long sleeved quarter zip with your logo on it, and it's going to cost X dollars. And instead of going out and buying a whole bunch of them and then trying to sell them to you, it's almost like a pre-order. Do you want to buy this? Tell me what your size is. We'll order it for you. Some who have special relationships with embroidery people or logo gear folks is some will actually get a special deal, and that particular provider will do a sort of create on demand. We, of course, Global sells some merchandise that, like, our Flowering Sea Star by far is the most popular. It's a silver pendant in large or small that a lot of women purchase, whether you're in leadership or membership. We also have a lavender pashmina with an embroidered logo. Those are by far the two most popular things. We also have a coffee table book on our website, which are the results of the research study that was done in 2020 and 2021 about our membership and about our grantees. Anyone have any other things you want to add? Does your chapter sell swag? Do you sell other things? What does it look like? Because we all want to learn from you. So if you know how to raise your Zoom hand, you can do it, or just wave at me and I am happy to call on you. Beth, go right ahead.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. We actually just opened an impact store, an online store. So we worked with a local vendor, and he created an online store for us where we have 10 items between long sleeve, short sleeve, fleece, half zip, quarter zip. We also had a cup that was engraved, and we just called it a pop-up shop, and we're keeping it open for 4 weeks. And people can we've sent the members the link. We've put our link on social media, and they can just go to that link and order. And we're not making any money off of it. He offered to let us do it as a fundraiser, and we decided, we would just wanted to be able to offer it to our members without making money. So we opted not to do that. But so far, it's worked out really well.
Awesome. Anybody else have an experience with swag? Okay, very good. I will say there are several chapters, and I know Pensacola does a beautiful job of this, but others as well, who have great swag that are a gift for attendees of the annual dinner, annual awards celebration, however, annual meeting, whatever term you use when you give your grants away. We all know that if we had to pick one event to get all of our members involved in, it would be coming to that annual meeting. And so providing a very cool piece of swag. Actually, Traverse City just did a great one. We got these logoed umbrellas at the last annual meeting. So I know many of you have a very strong swag game. I'm looking at you, Milwaukee, also, as well as so many of you. So if you use swag in an unusual way or as an incentive of any kind, I would invite you to drop those details in the chat so that we can all learn from each other. Now, there is another question, and it is thoughts on how much communication is the right amount of communication to our membership. Do you do monthly newsletters? How many Facebook posts? Kind of where are you? I can tell you that I subscribe to almost everybody. If I'm not subscribed on your list, please add me because I want to receive your newsletters. I want to be on your mailing list. We have chapters that send out a weekly note. We have chapters that send out a monthly newsletter. We have chapters that only send out a newsletter now and again. In some cases, they are opting for social media or other ways to engage other than an emailed newsletter. I don't know that one way is right or wrong. The benefit of a newsletter is that you can put a lot of information that you want your members to receive in a simple format. So it's up to you. In some cases, though, I know this from looking at your websites, you're not updating your website nearly as regularly, which might also tie to your newsletter, but your Facebook is very current, very full of engaged followers. And so you're just using social media as your primary communication. One thing I'll tell you when it relates to this is, sometimes as leaders, when we hear from our members or people in the community, oh, I don't really understand what you do. Sometimes we think that means we should send out more newsletters. And sometimes it can backfire on you because often the people who submit those suggestions can be, somewhat a minority. Maybe it's going in their spam filter. They don't even know that you've been sending them all along. So you want to troubleshoot and you want to be mindful. I've absolutely had chapters report that when they started communicating more frequently than what they had been, they started to see some unsubscribes, which no one wants that. There are others that said the more we put out, whether it's social or newsletter, the more our membership wants. So I don't know if you all have a secret recipe or you've got any guidance on what you think is a good cadence for communication. Above all, I would say, as long as what you're telling them is good information, usable, helpful, and not just, I'm putting out another of the same social media feed, but provide some insight, knowledge, or, content that will be useful. Carla, go right ahead.
I have a question relating to that because that's a big hot topic within our organization. We're really ramping up our social media, trying to get more members to follow. We have some on Instagram, some on Facebook, but I notice like when we have events, I will track. And so when we hit a reminder to register, like within the last 24 hours, we just picked up 24 people. So you get a lot of people saying there are too many emails going out, but if you have an event and you send an email once a week to the people who have not yet registered, and then you're picking up that people, like to me, that's showing that that's giving people the nudge that got busy and forgot to sign up. But I don't know if anybody else is struggling with finding that balance or that sweet spot.
Haley, maybe you want to chime in and just talk about what happens with these chapter chats.
Yeah, definitely, as you said, like we went back and forth. Do we send out just an email only to register for chapter chats? Do we include it in a newsletter? Is it another one? How many do we do? When do we do them? And every time, so as of now, our general cadence is two posts. Typically chapter chats are like a Tuesday or Thursday. So we'll do a morning of, and we will do a like Friday before. With any type of prep, as I'm sure you guys know, if there's, setting up, organizing the questions, making sure we have everybody accounted for, the morning of is a little tricky, but if we can kind of plan ahead, it is helpful. That's the difference of registrations, and getting that number to be much higher. So definitely in terms of chapter chats and getting people to register and see it, it's a little, it's like that pre-plan and we're including it also in the newsletter, but a dedicated email, it has been helpful. It's when we get the most registrants for this, certainly. So, and then it is that morning of like, hey, today's the day. Remember, if you did register, it's happening today, and the link and whatnot. And then for anybody who's like, oh, I can make that happen today. Actually, I didn't know, but now I could work it in. So it has
Well,
been
and
effective for that.
can I just add one question to that? Like, that's like a virtual thing. So when we're doing it in person, right, we really need the count.
Mm.
Like, ideally, the rough count a week before or 10 days before the, place where we're hosting. And then we can pick up some additional people along the way and take them in. But, that reminder of really getting that count, because for us, like if we went to that scenario, like the day of or the day before, we wouldn't know our numbers,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well,
And I
and
think then you backtrack that and just knowing that
yeah.
you have this, depending on when you need your count in, if you say I need it a week before, it's like another kind of follow-up dedicated to that event. Right on close to that deadline. Again, with everyone being busy and making sure that you're allowing yourself the time to add it all up, put in meal options or preferences or allergies and all of that if it's in person. But I think that individual email to kind of remind people it can be effective.
Yeah.
Good. Any other thoughts on the level of communication? You can feel free to speak up, or obviously you can share it in the chat. I will say I'm terrible at looking at the chat when I am doing these, so I'm going to ask Lori and Haley to keep me honest and redirect if there's a question that shows up in our chat. But we have a lot of questions that you all had submitted in advance. So one of the questions which is interesting, and it's, do many chapters use the format of having finalists speak at the annual meeting? So if I go to the beginning of time, 23 years ago, every chapter, I would say straight up to pre-COVID, every chapter had their finalists speak at the voting event, whatever you call that. I think then, of course, COVID happened and everything became recorded. I don't have the exact number, so I can't tell you if it's like 50-50 or 60-40, but I will say that the chapters who've decided to go back to live are like firmly live. The chapters who have decided to keep it with a video are firmly video. There are pros and cons to both, and there are reasons for each. I think if we look at it from a best practice standpoint, when you do your Meet the Finalists event, which ideally is a few months before your annual meeting, at that point, you will have an executive summary of each finalist proposal. You will announce to the world, and including your members, here are our finalists, meet them. It's not a surprise event. Here's the executive summary of what they're doing. And then in the early days, when everything was live, if I had to vote by absentee ballot, I only could use those executive summaries to determine my ranking of the 5 finalists. Now, there are, some sort of a hybrid where can I vote by absentee ballot and also get a video or a live stream to be able to vote? So things have changed, and I think they will continue to evolve. And like a lot of things with Impact 100, it will likely be very specific to your community. And if your community is already full on back in person, they may continue. If they're hybrid or more virtual, you know, I think you're going to know best as a leader. But does anyone weigh in on what you're doing? If it's something different or unusual or something you find particularly helpful? Debbie, go ahead.
I just,
And then Joni.
when COVID hit, we obviously had to scramble and go. Thanks to these chapter chats, we found out that a lot of the other chapters were doing their AAM on Zoom, and we were like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? But we pulled it off. And of course, that required that we go to electronic or online voting for the first time. We had never done that. And we were able to ask our finalists to create videos. At that time, we asked them to do it themselves. Since then, we now have a videographer who we worked with for years, and we set up, in fact, Valerie's on this call as well. We set up all the, let's say we have 7 finalists. We set up a day where we bring them all in and videotape them. And then the videos, along with the summaries, the program summaries, are put up on our website so that our members have all, we usually give 10 days to 2 weeks for them to take the time to read the summaries, to watch the videos, and vote ahead of time. And because we still do the voting electronically, it gives everybody an opportunity, whether they attend the AAM or not, to vote. And people can take all the time they want. The thing that frustrated me the most was, I'd hear the 6 or 7, presentations and have to make a decision right then, even if I had read them. People are influenced by the presentations, and this gives everybody a chance, to take all the time they want. Plus, our nonprofits love it. Absolutely love it. They love it because think of the pressure that they're under when they have to get up live and 100K is on the fence, on the line for it. So and we keep it a secret. There's only 2 people that know who are the grantees. So there's still the fun aspect of it being like the Academy Awards, and rightly or wrongly, some people think that anyway, and then what we do is, and we never used to do that, then when the grantees are announced, they come up and, we tell them in advance, if you're going to be a grantee, have something prepared. And it's really nice because they get up and, they're appreciative. They get all choked up. Everybody loves seeing them. And it's a true celebration. So we found that our members love it, and we found that the nonprofits love it. And the videotaping, seems to work really. And by our doing the videotaping, they are all standard. They're all, in the exact same place, done by the same person. It's all extremely fair. We even have a teleprompter, which makes it really easy for them. And our videographer does a great job of making them feel very much at ease. So we've had, grantees come back that did it the old way and did it the new, and now do it, since 2020. And they're all like, oh my God, this is so much better. So that's just how we've done it over the years. And, we don't have any reason now to go back to, the old way of doing all the presentations there. And then the other thing is it saves time. We're not waiting. Then all the presentations are made. Then you have to vote. Then you have to tabulate the votes. And anyway, we've just found out that we really like it this way. But again, it's, a lot of people are like the old way, and that's fine too.
Debbie, can
Thanks,
I
Debbie.
ask, when do you close voting?
Pardon?
Then when do you close voting? The night of the awards, or
Probably, I think it's what, Valerie, like 2, maybe 1 or 2 nights before, 2 nights before.
Okay.
Because we do it on SurveyMonkey. So, we get the results. Like we used to have an accountant check them. I mean, it's just so you know,
We switched to OPA vote during COVID, and we kind of were tracking, and you were one of the people we were tracking what was going on.
yeah.
And we're moving to that model of recording in advance and then awarding on a different night. So I'm really happy to hear you say that. It won't happen this year, but we're moving to doing that just
Yeah,
because
it's been 4 years now, and it's worked really well. And like I said, we haven't gotten any pushback from members or especially the nonprofits absolutely love it.
nice. Thank you for sharing that. That really
Yeah,
helps
you're
me at
welcome.
board meeting tomorrow. We're talking
Thank
about this, so.
Good.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to weigh in
I
on
would-
that? Oh,
I was
sorry,
just going
Joni.
to
Yeah.
say, and it's good. We went the opposite direction. We did recorded during Zoom during COVID. Some of our members, obviously, it's nice because you have it ahead of time. You can watch the video and read the project summary. So we have both for our members. They do a pitch at the annual meeting, but they also do a project summary, which is essentially their pitch, without them being the ones to present it. And you know, we've had discussions both ways, but I wanted to kind of look at the numbers, because what I was most interested in is are more people voting and attending the annual meeting if they're in person or not in person? So it was hard to dig too far back. But what we found was we've actually had more participation with the voting, doing it this way. A lot of them voted absentee. We had our quorum absentee before the meeting even started. We use Member Leap, so it's all within there. And then we actually had then also at the presentations at the meeting, and people voted using that. It was actually very quick to tabulate, because I think we ended up having to hand out 12 absentee ballots. But we didn't remind our voting window was really short this time. We had our reveal at the end of October, and our annual meeting was I've lost a week because I just had surgery. It was November 10th. So the voting window was really short. They received their ballot on November 5th. And we told them, this is when the ballot's coming. Your project summary is attached. If you cannot attend a meeting, this is what you're going to use to vote. And it was almost like the compression of time helped people get it done. And we didn't have a lot of reminders, because when you send a reminder email that they can't find it, we were very, very specific at the start. This is how this is going to work. So please, pay careful attention. Obviously, we had ladies there to help during annual meeting. We did 12 paper ballots. But what I found interesting was there were more people that voted this year than in years past. And we actually had one tiebreaker, which that's the dreaded tiebreaker. And we had one. And a couple of our other categories were like incredibly close. So I don't know, I just felt like there was more engagement. And although it is definitely hard, having been on both sides of it as a nonprofit, standing up there in front of everyone, and now as a impact member, it is incredibly scary. But these are things that nonprofits do pretty regularly. It can help them come to the next level as well. It is 100,000. And we tell them, don't pick your weak speaker. It doesn't have to be your executive director. Pick the person that can pitch the project the best. But I think it just depends. I think however you have to do it will work. But the meeting went very smoothly. We have a finalist area. We have 2 ladies that are runners, so that as soon as one person is wrapping up, they get to 4 minutes. We go and get the next team, and we are just boom, boom, boom for 50 minutes straight. And then using MMS, the voting this year worked beautifully. We didn't have to double count or any of it. So it really, if you've got your voting process down smoothly, that will help in that length of time. When we kept it open, when I went back to help count votes, I turned the survey off, so no one could vote any longer. That was it. And we let members know, if you're not there, I'm going to keep it open until 4:15, because that was the timeline we'd set within the meeting. And at 4:15, it was off. So I think just setting the tone and letting people know early we still had people that didn't know, but it's, you can announce it from the hilltop. Some people are just going to miss it. That's what we found.
Thank you, Joni. I'll say 2 things. One of the sort of pros of speaking live versus doing a recording that I personally have heard is that if you are a good speaker, you want to speak to the energy in the room and not to your computer screen or in a blank place, in a recorded place. They want to sort of be a part of the action. But secondly, and Joan, I'm gonna ask you a question because someone here asked, is there a how to use MemberLeap document for the grant share? And it sounds like you might be the walking document for what grants chairs might do. So if it's easier for you to put something in the chat, or if you want to respond, I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
No,
I
it's
was going
fine.
to pick Lori next because I know
No,
Atlanta
we
uses
don't
MemberLeap.
have a document per se because there's so many different pieces and parts to it, but I certainly could help walk someone through. And again, we've tried to put documentation together and do screenshots and that, so that we've got a good amount of stuff, but it's not all in one spot for not only our grant chair, our focus area chairs, and our members. We use it for all of us. And one thing we did this year was we did sort of a little special session of, if you have no idea how to use MemberLeap, let's just start at the beginning. Let's get you logged in, and so I think as much as people don't want to use MemberLeap, and as tricky as it sometimes can be, I think it's better if you're going to use it to go all in and teach your members how to use it, because I think trying to use too many different types of programs can be very tricky. But I won't say we've perfected it at all, but we have found ways to make it a little smoother and a little simpler for everyone involved. So, but yeah, I was brought in as the grant co-chair, and I thought it was just going to be learning how to do all the things. and I kind of was, but our grant chair didn't know how to use MMS. And so it was, kind of trial by fire, but she was able to give me this is what we need to be doing. And then we worked together with one of our presidents who was very adept at MMS and just walked through it. And I think we're better for having gone through. And MemberLeap is actually really good. If you have questions, they will sit down with you and help out. They do have pretty good customer service. So I don't work for MemberLeap, by the way. It's not an endorsement. I just...
Joni, do you guys use the call for proposals system for the, okay.
We did not. We
committees.
Yeah, we take our applications in Forms Builder, and then we set up committees folders within MMS, and we load documents into folders. It's definitely a process, but we had looked at the cost of submittable, and it was just so high, and it was another program that we would have to get branded, and that whole branding thing, I'm realizing is a lot to get all of your fonts in there correctly and your graphics. So that had already been done in MemberLeap. So yeah, I'm happy to kind of help. It might be a little the blind leading the blind, because I don't always, if I don't use it every day, I don't remember, but it's definitely something I can help with.
Very good. Thank you. All right. We have many, many more, and some of these are not short answers. So if you see me sort of scanning the desk, it's because some of these are a lot. So here's a question that it takes more than a short answer. How is succession planning going for other chapter leaders? Now, I can tell you right now, that question is the biggest question facing virtually every chapter. Whether you are a startup chapter and you're trying to get the right seat and the right people in the right seats on the bus that's going to take you to launch, or whether you're at in a season of just it's time for board members to roll off or things to change, or you started with a small-ish board, now you're ready to add to it. I mean, succession planning, attracting good leaders, creating a culture so that women in the community are dying to be asked to be on your board, not looking the other way when you walk over to them at a holiday party. And so I wish I could tell you that there's like this secret sauce. But what I will say, the secret sauce is, remember the great work that your chapter is doing. Sometimes when we feel overworked or the people around us on the board are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and then they start to sorry, I just saw a weird AI note taker pop up on my screen that I didn't understand. Sorry. That somehow we get it in our head that we have to beg for someone to come and help us. And when we believe that, there's not a lot you're going to be able to do that's going to attract the right person, because most of us don't want to come into a burning building when the people inside with the fire hoses don't know where to point them next. Like there's so much smoke and fire that they really need help. So focus on the why and what leadership can do. Take the roles that you have where you may have had a Wonder Woman on your board who did like 3 different jobs and picked up all the loose ends when nobody else was picking them up. That person is very hard to replace. But instead of waiting and hoping she's going to renew for just one more term, that, just one more time, if we start looking at the roles that we currently have and say, how can we take a role that's really big and start to bring in experts who can help do pieces and parts? You're not exiting that superstar board member. You are simply giving them some scaffolding around some of the many things that they do so that your incoming board person has a manageable role and they get to sit at the feet of the Wonder Woman who gets it all done and can learn, from the best. I would also say you should always, in the same way that I'll tell you, that you should always be recruiting new members and you should always be trying to attract nonprofit applications, like always, always, always. You should also always be looking to identify potential leaders long before you have any openings. Some chapters, I recognize that you have a board and then you might have an executive team and a board and committee leaders and, this sort of hierarchy. Forgive my oversimplification, but I'm simply going to refer to them as your leadership team or your board, whether you've got them broken up a million ways or not. And so what you want is you want every new board member that you bring in to sit down with them one-on-one. I would love to tell you that spreadsheet that I ask every single chapter leader to do when they launch, and then I ask them to keep doing it every time they turn over and they add a new board member. I know that for many of you, it feels daunting or it feels tedious. And it's very well both. So if you don't do the massive spreadsheet, then at the very least, your president-elect in an ideal world, your president-elect should also oversee your nominating committee and people in leadership. If you think there's a rock star on one of your grant review teams, or you think there's a volunteer that she's a member, but she's busy doing a million other things, but she's going to roll off that board, make notes of these things. Have conversations with them to say, look, I just want you to know, as a leader, I admire what you do. I know you're a member of Impact, but you've got this heavy volunteer role you're serving in right now. I would love to have you consider when your term is up, considering what leadership might look like over at Impact 100 and joining our board. I see you in the role of X, or I see you because of all these things that you do so well doing Y. You're not building a stable of, gosh, bunch of great women, and I think they're all smart and they get stuff done. And so we just need to get them all on here and we'll figure out the roles that they get. For women who are in demand, which I guarantee all of your potential board candidates are, you always want to paint the picture of how the world will be different if you could get them on your leadership team to do the important work that you believe they're highly capable of doing. Not only are you communicating that you're not randomly asking a warm body, but also that you have a purpose. The other thing I'll tell you is, we say this again and again, the time to build diversity in your leadership team is day one. The second best time is now. So if you do not have a diverse leadership team, start looking beyond your known circles, known neighborhoods, and known networks and get out there. When we talk about diversity of Impact 100 leadership, we mean it in the fullest definition of the word. We mean it from race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age. We also need it zip code or part of town. You know, there's like downtown, east side, west side, suburban, however you define yourself. In some of your chapters, you've got gated communities. You want to make sure that when you look at the map of your coverage area, you look at the people who reside there as well as the nonprofits, and you say, are we represented by leadership and membership in these areas? Sometimes it takes longer than you'd like, but it's just vitally important. So I think succession planning begins early. I don't think you know what skills you need until you realize what jobs your current leaders are doing. Some of you might have a sort of generic job description for what your secretary does or what your president-elect does or grants chair or any one of those things. And they're all great. But as soon as you bring a person into that boilerplate role, she brings all these other skills with her. And you want to make sure that your description matches the job she's actually doing, which means you want her to authentically review and say, you know what? I didn't even know this thing was on my job description. I haven't done that ever. Or they might say, well, yeah, I do this stuff, but I also do those three other things. When you understand the role that needs to be filled, then you can say, you know what? I can't imagine that you're rolling off the board and we're going to end up needing 3 leaders to take over for one role. That's a good thing. It explains why that board member's tired, but it also gives you better footing and you're recognizing the depth and breadth of their work. So always have a nominating slate, always be looking, make it very personal, make sure that at least annually the people who are currently in the roles have edited, validated, confirmed what jobs they're actually doing, no matter what job description they have. Anybody want to add to that or disagree or agree any of that? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for that, Carly. Or Carla. Sorry, we just got off a call with Carly before right now. But so I thank you for that. If you've got better ideas, other ideas that you want to share, please use the chat. Also use community forum. There is another question on trust-based philanthropy. Does it make sense for smaller funds, parentheses, under 250,000 are larger multi-million dollar funds? That's a very difficult question because within Impact, we don't usually, we give 100,000 or more. Some chapters, the maximum is 100,000. So it's hard for me to ask, it's hard for me to answer it the way it was written. But what I will say is that trust-based philanthropy at its core is taking this notion of, our kind of founding great grandfathers, and they were all men back then, who were a wealthy person, successful in business. And then from his mountaintop, he would bestow grants down to the little people. And his heart was in the right place. He wanted to help, but he didn't necessarily know, he didn't necessarily walk the road that they're walking. And so trust-based philanthropy is this idea of, instead of making grants from an ivory tower that's out of touch with the lived experiences of the people in our community or our grantees, that instead we go and we make sure that we include thought leadership and input from the people who are actually the hands and feet down in the community delivering these services or in need of them. Because by definition, it takes away the ivory tower and makes the giving hierarchy flat. That's exactly what we do in collective giving. If I go back to our first year in Cincinnati, we had 123 members that represented all parts of town, all walks of life. And, it was this brand new thing. High percentage of our members were involved in every aspect. That same thing gets repeated in communities everywhere. And part of what you can do that way is gather the insights and the wisdom from that eclectic, diverse, divine group that we call your members, and everyone has an equal voice. So what we know to be true is 50% of the women who join a local chapter have never donated $1,000 prior to joining Impact. So if you take that and you recognize that this newly minted philanthropist might be very close, I believe that for many of us, the difference between being in a position to help others and being in a position of needing help ourselves can be one illness, one accident, one job loss away. And so getting our newly minted philanthropist alongside, this eclectic and diverse group of grant reviewer members, I think we know that we reach better outcomes. Our discussions are robust and meaningful, and friendships are forged that might not have happened before that. I think I will tell you that we have some chapters that are doing some trust-based philanthropy, which is a no strings attached. We're just going to give this to you unrestricted, and you're going to spend it however you want. That is happening in some chapters. It is for some communities, it might be the logical next step. In some communities, it might be something that your community will never consider. And you may be somewhere in between. But the most important thing about trust-based philanthropy is that if it is something that you are considering incorporating into your grant making, you've got to be pretty careful because the message that you give when you invite women to join has to align with your grant making. So if you think you want to do that, you need to give a lot of warning so that every member, before she re-ups for the coming year, knows that some portion of it might be attributed that way. Unless 100% of your members join with that knowledge, I think it can get slippery fast. But I do know that there are areas that it works. There are several chapters that use what I sometimes call as the consolation prize grants, the merit prizes. You all have different ways that you describe them, the community-based, but those smaller grants sometimes are trust-based. I know, for example, Indian River, they have given their remaining money over the round 100, 200, 300,000 in these, here is your gift. And it may have changed recently, but for a long time it was, here it is, use it how you want, and you don't need to report. Others say, here it is, report back. So however you do it, just make sure that you're getting everyone kind of weighed in and comfortable around the table. Our last chapter chat, we talked about this. So if you want to take a deeper dive, please go into Community Forum and check that out. Or if you ever want to have a chapter chat on a specific topic, like we spend the whole hour on one aspect or another, we used to do that. We used to say, this chat's only about membership. This chat's only about grant making. This chat's only about leadership, or whatever it may be, the big three events. If that's appealing to you, let us know. We can go back to that. We started getting people who would say, gosh, I know this is membership, but I have a question about something entirely else. So that's why lately we've done all of these open forum. So we're 4 minutes away. I'm going to answer, we have a whole bunch of membership recruiting questions. And we don't have enough time to get to them. I'm so sorry. But we definitely have lots we will and can cover. As we move ahead, we will be having a chat in December. I will make this promise, and I know that Haley and Lori will keep me accountable. Hopefully y'all will too. We will start our December chat with all the membership. And then we can catch up from there. How does that sound?
Good.
Okay. I will say, we had someone ask if they offer memberships, like sponsored membership to grant recipients. I will say, I don't know very many that offer that, and I'm not sure that that is a great idea. I guess I'm not entirely sure of the context, but we do have many grant recipients where the executive director or the board or multiple people on the board will join, and they do it because they want to, and then they become your best member recruiting. Judy Allen, y'all probably have heard that name. She was the staff dentist at our very first grant award. She got $123,000. She joined the very next year, has joined every single year since, has also recruited lots of other members, and has coached lots of nonprofits to apply for the grant. That's what you want. I think it's kind of like offering a free event. You know, what we find is if you offer a free event, people don't see the value in it, or they will not show up the last minute because it didn't cost them anything. You want them to have skin in the game. You want them to join because they're compelled to. And there might be scholarships that are available for them, partial or full, in the same way that a woman who's not a grant recipient who really wants to join might be able to have her membership supported by some outside funding in the way of a sponsorship or scholarship. So I just want to cover that really quickly. And then membership retention, get them to your annual award celebration. That's number one. Number two, assign buddies. The ones you worry the most about are the ones who say, I'm in and I don't want to get involved. So find ways to keep them engaged and involved, personal outreach. Okay, it's 3:59, so I'm sorry. In respect of all of your time, I tried to give you some quick little tidbits. We will start here in December Feel free to continue any of these conversations via email, text, call. If any of you want to come together and say, I just want to do a Zoom call on membership before the chapter chat, I'm here for it. So let us know. We will work it out. We'll bring as many of you together as want to do it. Same thing goes for any of these other questions, further grants, questions, or anything else. Sound fair? All right, y'all. I hope you have a very, very, very happy Thanksgiving with lots to be grateful for. I know this year end for so many chapters, it is your big push before a December membership deadline. So looking very forward to continuing the conversation. Hope you all enjoy your Thanksgiving and stay connected. Please come back in December though, and we'll do one in between if that works too. So thank you.